Season 4, Episode 1. He looked exactly like me, but he didn't know my name. The first time I saw him, he was buying coffee. Same posture, same scar above the brow, same tired kindness in the corners of the eyes. But when the barista asked for his name, he smiled and said, "I'm no one." I didn't move, didn't breathe. I just watched, because that was my body, my face, my cadence, but not my memory. Not anymore. He wore my life like a jacket that fit just slightly better. The way I should have walked. The way I used to hold things without shaking. Even the way he smiled, it had a confidence that had been extracted from me long ago. He didn't look haunted. He looked untouched. I followed him outside. He didn't see me. He whistled, stopped to pet a dog, held the door for an old woman. All things I might have done before the ritual, before the reflection, before Kaylin, before my name became a key that unlocked nothing but silence. I called out to him, not by name, by instinct. "Hey!" He turned, and I saw it, the blankness behind his eyes. Not stupidity, not confusion, just absence. Like someone had taken all the chapters out of the book and left the cover walking around, smiling. "Do I know you?" he asked. I shook my head. He waited, then nodded. "All right, take care." He walked away, and I stood there, feeling like I just watched myself walk out of a grave and into someone else's peace. Later that night, I told Kaylin. His response was colder than I expected. "Good. It means the swap is holding." "What swap?" He didn't blink. "The ritual doesn't just replace you. It duplicates you and redistributes the weight." He walked toward the window, then added, "Some carry the memory, some carry the face. But only one version remembers a hurt." I whispered, "Which one am I?" He smiled. "You're the pain, Thaddeus. You're the part we had to carve out, so the rest could move on." I didn't sleep that night. I stared into the mirror, not because I wanted to see myself, but because I needed to check. Was he still in there? Or had he moved on into the world that no longer belonged to me? And just before dawn, the mirror blinked, but it wasn't my face anymore. It was his, still breathing, still smiling, still free. Episode 2. They say he's my friend, but I remember him dying. The first time I saw him again, he was laughing, leaning against a cafe counter. Wearing a blue shirt, I remembered folding for his funeral. Alive, at ease, untouched by the cold we buried him in. I froze, not from grief, but from dissonance. Because I didn't just remember him. I remembered his scream, the way his body shook when the spiral took him, how his last words were carved into his own palms. I forgive the wrong name. But now here he was, ordering a cappuccino with almond milk, saying thanks with that same crooked grin. I once mourned. I approached. Each step felt like walking into a photo that shouldn't still exist. "Levi!" He turned. Eyes met, and my breath left, not because it was him, but because he didn't recognize me. "Yeah," he said. "Friendly. Open." I stared. "You don't remember me." He tilted his head. "I'm sorry, should I?" I almost said it. "You died. You bled out of my arms. Your reflection broke before your body did." But I didn't, because something inside me whispered, "He's not forgetting. He's been rewritten." I followed him, not because I didn't believe it, but because I needed to see how much of him survived. He had a job, an apartment, a dog named River, just like before, but no journal, no scars, no sleeplessness, no shadow in his eyes that hinted at the ritual, no leftover breath of death. Just Levi, alive and free. I called Kaylin, told him what I saw. He didn't flinch. "Some people don't survive the ritual," he said, "but their vessels do." I choked on the silence. "So you just reprogram them?" "They were already broken," he replied. "We just repurposed the parts." Later that night, I dreamed of the chapel again, of Levi, but this time, I wasn't holding his dying body. I was watching him walk away from me, backward into the spiral. And when I called out, he looked over his shoulder and said, "It's better this way. You get to carry the story. I get to forget the pain." I woke up crying, not for him, for me, because what haunted me most wasn't that Levi forgot me. It was that he looked happier without the memory of me. The next morning, I passed the street. He was out walking river. He saw me, waved, no hesitation, and from across the street, he called out, "Take care, stranger." Episode 3. Someone is writing my life in advance, and I just found a page I haven't lived yet. It was tucked between 2 pages of Ezra's old journal. I wasn't looking for it. I was searching for a passage on spiral recurrence, and it simply fell out. A single page, unmarked, unlabeled, unaged. But the moment I touched it, I knew I wrote this. Except I hadn't. Not yet. The handwriting was mine. Every curve, every hesitation. Even the way I misspell occurred when I'm tired. It described a moment I didn't remember, because it hadn't happened. Tuesday, 3:47 p.m. Standing in front of the old library. The sky gray. A woman with a red coat dropping a silver key. My hand shaking. A voice whispering behind me. It ended where you first forgot. I reread the line 10 times. Not because I didn't believe it, but because I did. And belief in this world is more dangerous than prophecy. Tuesday came. I told myself I wouldn't go, that the library was coincidence, that the red coat was metaphor. But at 3:43 p.m., my feet were already moving. By 3:46, I was across the street. By 3:47, she was there, hair pulled tight, red coat, silver key slipping from her hand, as if gravity knew it had a part to play. I froze, because the page hadn't lied. It had remembered forward. The key hit the sidewalk. She bent to pick it up. And behind me, a whisper bloomed in the air like breath from a forgotten mouth. It ends where you first forgot. I turned. No one, not visibly. But the shadow on the brick wall beside me didn't match mine. It was taller, older, still, like it was waiting for me to keep reading. I ran home, page in hand. I flipped it over. There was more. Wednesday, 10:19 a.m. Mirror. No reflection. No breathing. Only one line carved into glass. Welcome back, original. I dropped the page. Not from fear. From recognition. Because I had seen that mirror. Owned it. Stared into it during nights when I wasn't sure I was still human. But I had never seen the glass whisper back. Ezra once said, "You think memory is past tense. But memory is just a sentence waiting for the verb to arrive." I didn't understand it then. Now I do, because this page wasn't prediction. It was a memory of a life I hadn't arrived at yet. Someone was writing it, not for me, as me, and I'm starting to wonder, if I keep turning the pages, will I find the day I disappear? And if so, will I still get to choose how it's written? Episode 4. The page said I'd find a body. I just didn't know it would be mine. There was no address, no map, just a sentence. Scrawled in the bottom margin of the page I wasn't supposed to have. Under the floorboards, room 3C. The body still remembers your name. I shouldn't have gone. But you can't unread something like that. You can't go back to soup and sleep. Once your name shows up in a sentence, where it doesn't belong. Room 3C was part of an abandoned boarding house on Graybridge Avenue. I hadn't been there in years. Didn't remember why I ever left. But the moment I stepped through the warped wooden door, the floor creaked like it knew me. It was cold. Still, not the stillness of an empty space, but of a room that's been holding its breath. Waiting. I stepped inside. 3rd floor. 2nd door to the right. Room 3C. And the moment my foot crossed the threshold, I remembered everything. The attic ritual. The failed transfer. The scream that never made it past my lips. And then, the burial. The room hadn't changed. The wallpaper peeled like old scabs. The light bulb swung though there was no wind. And the rug in the center of the floor wasn't covering dust. It was covering something waiting to be found. I pulled it back. The boards beneath had been pried up before. Not recently. Not carelessly. But with intent. As if someone had once sealed something in and made peace with never returning. Until now, I lifted the planks, one by one, and the smell hit me first. Not rot, not death, memory, like wet books, like breath on old glass. And beneath the final board, wrapped in what used to be bed sheets, was a body. I knew it was mine before I saw the face. Same scar, same missing molar, same tattoo half erased by time and heat. The body wasn't decomposed. It was preserved, held together by some unholy kind of remembering. And in its right hand, gripped so tight the nails had broken inward, was a pen, my pen, the one I lost the night I stopped writing, the night I woke up somewhere new. I reached for it, and the corpse opened its eyes. They didn't blink, didn't look at me. They looked through me, like I was a ghost, like I was a forgotten one. And then, barely audible, it spoke, not aloud. Inside, "You are the second draft." I dropped the board, stepped back, tried to breathe, but every inhale felt like I was pulling air from someone else's lungs. Because maybe I'd been doing that all along. I called Kalen. He didn't sound surprised. "Some versions aren't erased," he said. "They're buried, in case the rewrite fails." "And if it doesn't fail?" There was a pause. "Then there are two of you, one above the page, one beneath." That night, I burned the page. But I couldn't stop thinking about what it said. Just beneath the final line, the part one almost missed. "He who finds the body must return to finish what he couldn't survive the first time." And now, I can't stop wondering, what if I wasn't supposed to find the body, but to become it? Again, episode 5. They say I'm still breathing, but I haven't felt air in days. They tell me I'm alive, that my vitals are stable, that my lungs are working, that my heart is beating. They point at the machines, at the numbers glowing green and steady, as if proof has ever been enough to convince a ghost it belongs in skin. But I haven't felt air in days. Not on my face, not in my chest. I inhale, I exhale, I speak, but none of it feels like me. It feels like a script, a memory of breath, replayed through muscle, like a prayer recited by someone who no longer believes. I stand in front of the window every morning, waiting to fog the glass with my breath. Nothing, not even warmth, just reflection. And lately, even that has started arriving before I do. Kalen won't look me in the eye. When I ask him what's wrong, he just says, "Some patterns are harder to erase than others." I don't ask what that means. I already know, because the body beneath the floorboards, the one with my pen, my scar, my face, hasn't moved. And yet, I have. So which of us is the echo? Which of us is the original? And which of us is still breathing? Ezra used to say, "The soul is not what animates the body. It's what suffers when the body forgets how to be real." I think my body is remembering without me now. It rises. It walks. It smiles at people on the street. But there's a delay. A flicker, like the light that fills a room half a second before the bulb actually turns on. I'm always arriving just after myself. Today I cut my hand. A simple slice on a glass. No blood. No sting. But 10 seconds later, a warm line of red appeared. Perfect. Scripted. Like it had been told to arrive on cue. I'm beginning to think I'm being performed. That I am not the man I appear to be, but the shadow of his decisions. A reflex. An afterimage. Someone walking through the choreography of what used to be real. I tried to stop breathing. Held my breath for over 2 minutes. My chest never burned. My vision never darkened. And when I finally gasped, the air that entered me didn't feel like air. It felt like a command. Like something other wanted me to continue. Because it wasn't done using this form yet. I don't fear death anymore. I fear duration. Being kept. Sustained. Reanimated by memory. Not by life. And tonight, when I stood in the mirror, my reflection whispered before I did. The lungs are loyal. but the soul is starting to rot. Episode 6. The body below is decaying, but I just found fresh fingernails growing on it. I swore I wouldn't go back. After I saw the body, after it opened its eyes, after it whispered that I was a second draft. But there are things that call you, even when you don't have a name left to answer with. And sometimes the floor remembers better than your own reflection. It was raining, soft, reluctant. I walked back to room 3, see like a man retracing the outline of the crime. He might not have committed, but can no longer prove he didn't. The room welcomed me the same way forgotten things always do. Quiet, resigned, patient. The boards creaked. The rug had shifted. Something had moved. I peeled the planks again, slower this time, as if the act itself was being watched. And when I uncovered the body, I almost dropped to my knees, because the fingers, the same ones I had seen locked in rigor mortis days ago, were now growing. Fingernails. Clean. Pink. Alive. Not relics. Not rot. Regrowth. I reached down without thinking, pressed a finger to the wrist. Cold. Still, but no longer dead. It felt like something waiting, not for a miracle, for permission. I pulled back the sheet further. The chest had collapsed inward, as expected, but there along the ribs, new skin, taut, pale, soft like something that had never been touched. The scent had changed, too, not the sour of death, but earth, and dust, and sap, like the body wasn't decomposing, but rooting. I stepped back, heart pounding, because if decay was no longer occurring, if regrowth had begun, then I had two choices. Either I was dying slowly above the ground, or something beneath it was preparing to take my place. I went to Kalen, told him everything. He listened, didn't blink, didn't speak for a long time. Then he said, "The ritual doesn't resurrect. It reabsorbs." "What does that mean?" I asked. He turned toward the window. "It means the vessel you abandoned is remembering how to live, and the one you're in now," he looked at me, "is remembering how to let go." That night, I dreamt of both bodies, mine above, mine below, both sleeping, both breathing, but one had begun to hum, a low vibration beneath the skin, like the earth was singing it awake. And in the dream, I asked, which of us will walk out of this? And the answer came from the mouth of the buried, the one who doesn't ask. I woke up gasping, not because I needed air, because I wasn't sure whose lungs I was using anymore. Episode 7. I watched my old body blink, and then it whispered my next thought. It wasn't a dream. That's what I told myself, as I stood above the open floor of room 3C, watching something that should have stayed still. Look back at me. I thought I'd buried it, or at least outlived it, but the body under the floor, my body, had begun to change. Not rapidly, not violently, just deliberately. The nails had grown. The skin was no longer waxen. The chest, once caved in, had filled with breath. That didn't rise, but waited. And then last night, for the first time, it blinked. Not random, not muscular spasm. It blinked once, right as I thought of leaving the room. I froze. I hadn't moved, hadn't said a word. The idea had only formed in my head, and the body responded. I leaned in, heartbeat like thunder in a coffin. The eyes open again, wider this time, and in a voice that came not from lungs, but from somewhere behind my own teeth. It whispered, "Don't." I stumbled back, hands shaking, thoughts loud, too loud, because I realized something I hadn't dared imagine. It wasn't hearing me. It was reading me from the inside out. The body beneath the boards wasn't waiting for life to return. It was parsing me like I was the past, and it was the future I hadn't caught up to yet. I ran, but no matter how far I went, the thoughts weren't mine alone anymore. I'd think of calling Ezra, and the phone would ring before I picked it up. I'd planned to burn the journal and find ashes in the sink the next morning. I'd reach for a page I hadn't read and see it already turned. I confronted Kalen. Something's wrong. I told him. He didn't deny it. Of course, he said. You've reached a point where the version below remembers better than the version above. What does that mean? He looked at me, gently, almost mournfully. It means you're no longer the original copy, Thaddeus. You're the echo with intent, but the vessel beneath is becoming the one who acts. That night, I returned to the room, stared down into the face I thought I had escaped, and I spoke. What are you? The eyes opened, not tired, not hostile, certain, and the mouth moved not with sound, but with terrifying familiarity. I am the version of you that never doubted the ritual. And in that moment, I felt something fracture. Not a bone, not a thought, something beneath it all. Like my identity had finally realized. It was being rehearsed elsewhere. I tried to think of a memory. My father's voice, Ezra's first laugh, Kaylin's hand on my shoulder. But before I could finish the thought, the body below whispered it back to me, word for word, emotion for emotion. I'm not losing control. I'm losing ownership. And the terrifying truth is, I think I prefer how he's handling it. Episode 8. He stood up from the floor, and I didn't fall, I just faded. He didn't rise like the dead. There was no snapping of joints, no tearing of skin, no gasp of air reclaimed. He simply stood, one vertebra at a time, as if gravity was no longer sure who it belonged to. And I didn't scream, didn't run, didn't even step back, because something in me had been preparing for this. Long before I saw the first spiral, long before Kaylin said my name like it wasn't mine anymore, I stood there and watched myself climb out of the floor. He didn't look at me, not at first. He looked at the room, like he was remembering a dream I was still stuck inside, like he had been waiting for the set to reset. And then he turned, eyes that had never blinked until recently. And when they landed on me, I felt myself dim, not like a light being turned off, more like a photo being exposed to time, fading at the edges, forgetting its color, remembering less vividly. I tried to speak. I know I did, but no sound came, not because I had no voice, but because he had already said what I was about to think. He took a step forward, and I took none, because there was nowhere to go. Not anymore. I was already slipping, not falling, not dying, just dissolving, like sugar in warm water, like a soul that had served its purpose, and was now being retired gently like an old prayer. He walked past me, and for a moment, I swear I saw myself from the outside, not through a mirror, but from within him, like he was seeing what was left of me, and deciding it was kind enough to let go. He picked up my coat, my bag, took the journal from the shelf, and tucked it under his arm, like it had always belonged there. And then he turned to the mirror. His reflection blinked. Not mine. That was when I knew I wasn't being replaced. I had already been replaced. A long time ago. This was just the moment the body caught up. He opened the door, paused, and without turning back, he whispered, "You were the pain. I'll be the purpose." And just like that, he left. And I didn't fall. I just faded from the air, from the weight of the room, from the need to be remembered. And as the light dimmed behind what I once called eyes, I finally understood. The ritual was never about death. It was about continuity. And in this new version of me, walking into the world, I live on, but only in echo, only in function, only in name.